is a fine example of that.
I know there's one element you specialise in Iran. You've got a bit to say about that. Let's talk about it. There's pressure building with the EU oil embargo. Earlier this month, the US Defence Department and Israel nonetheless admitted Iran, they don't think, is building nuclear weapons at the moment at least. But Obama is still piling on the pressure. Why?
Well, it's really tragic. The speech made a lot of references to tyranny and a love of democracy. But this is coming at the same time the U.S. continues to fund Saudi Arabia, which is committing crimes against the people and continues to get U.S. funds. At the same time, the U.S. is funding the Egyptian military, which is repressing the movement that brought down Mubarak. The U.S. supports all kinds of tyrants all over the world that support its agenda and economically, benefit the ruling elite of the United States, the oil companies. And then the speech spoke of Libya as if what happened in Libya was a great victory. But for the Libyan people, it was a disaster. The Libyan people prior to this conflict had the highest life expectancy on the African continent. The oil wealth was used to provide education and health care for the people of Libya. And now Libya has had its infrastructure destroyed by NATO bombs. And the people there are in misery. A country was destroyed. And I don't view that as a great advance. And the situation with Iran, again, sanctions are not going to help the Iranian people. I mean, people starved to death in sanctions. That was what happened to Iraq prior to the invasion. And I guess that should not be considered a victory.
And I guess there's an element of shooting yourself in the foot as well, because the International Monetary Fund, the IMF's warned that the sanctions and an oil embargo on Iran would raise the oil prices back to a third. So why does Europe and the US want to keep pushing for something that's actually only going to hurt them at the end of the day and cost them more in their pockets?
Well, like I said, the United States is run by a small ruling elite, and this ruling elite wants to reap profits from the people of the world and continue to live at the expense of the rest of humanity, those of us who have to sell our labor to survive, the working class. And at this point, Iran is a country that has not followed the orders of the ruling elites in Washington, D.C., and so Iran has been put on their enemies list. And they are seeking to isolate Iran and threaten Iran with war because of the crime that Iran is using its oil for Iranians and not for Washington, D.C., and not for the Wall Street oil companies.
Very good to have you on the program. Thanks for speaking to us. Caleb Mopin from the International Action Centre in New York there.